Avengers Endgame is Marvel Studios' 22nd film and the final film in what producer Kevin Feige has called the Infinity Saga, a story which first began with Nick Fury breaking into Tony Stark's Malibu mansion to tell him he was part of a bigger world. Avengers Endgame, directed by studio veterans Joe and Anthony Russo, picks up after the shocking ending of last year's Avengers Infinity War, and deals with our hero surviving in a post-decimation world, where half of all of life in the universe has been snapped out of existence by Josh Brolin's wonderfully villainous Thanos. After a series of events, the original group of Avengers and a few additions like War Machine and Ant-Man find a chance to avenge those who were taken from them and maybe even put things right. But what will the cost be, not to just them, but to the entire universe? So let's get into spoilers. You have been warned. I am going to go through the whole film, or attempt to, since I am doing this completely from memory, and some events may have happened before each other, but they still happen in the film. So the movie starts with Hawkeye's entire family getting dusted and him not knowing what's going on. From there we pick up with Tony and Nebula, who are passing the time playing paper football. Only that was 22 days ago, as currently the Benatar is out of fuel and they are stranded in space, with life support and food failing, and Tony's infection from Thanos stabbing him not helping. Having recorded a message to Pepper and awaiting death, they are found by Captain Marvel. On Earth, the surviving Avengers are doing what they can, trying to look for Thanos, but they can't find anything in their deep space scans. Captain Marvel arrives, bringing the Benatar and the very sick Tony to the Avengers compound. Tony, thanks to being sick and slightly insane, gets into a verbal fight with Steve over the events of Civil War, and the others, as he feels, abandoned him when he needed them the most. Carol wants to go for Thanos after learning of all of the people he has killed, but they don't know where he is. Luckily, however, Nebula knew he would retreat somewhere after his work was done. So Rocket, using the energy the stones gave off in Wakanda when he snapped it the first time, is able to track them across space to a planet where the stones were used 2 days prior. With the info at hand, the Avengers repair the Benatar and leave, keeping Tony on Earth since he is too sick to come with them. The team find Thanos, who is severely injured with the gauntlet now fused to his arm. After apprehending him and cutting his arm off, they learn that he used the stones to destroy the stones, so his work could not be undone by anyone. In a fit of rage and desperation, Thor cuts off Thanos' head, leaving them with nothing. 5 years later, Tony is living in a cabin in the wilderness he built for himself, Pepper, and their daughter Morgan, having left the Avengers behind for the quiet life. The Avengers, meanwhile, are coordinated by Natasha, who oversees the rebuilding of society. Captain Marvel, however, stays in outer space, helping out the other planets where she can. At this point, Scott Lang's whereabouts are made apparent, as he is spat out of the quantum realm thanks to a rat crawling across the unpowered console in his ex-con van. Here he learns his van was put in storage after the dusting, and while it's only been 5 hours for him, 5 years have passed. Learning his daughter might be alive, he returns home, finding her now grown up. Steve is running a support group for people who want to pick up the pieces of their lives after the snap and all of the people that have disappeared from their lives. Scott heads to the Avengers compound and tells the team what has happened, and his theory that if he can go into the quantum realm at one point and come out at another, then they could time travel and get the stones from different times and stop the snap before it happens. Without Hank around, they need Tony's help, but he wants to stay out of it since there are too many variables and he is happy with his life now and doesn't want to change it. The team have to turn to Bruce, who over the 5 years has become Professor Hulk, thanks to spending 18 months in a gamma chamber with the Hulk. After a hilarious trial with Ant-Man that results in his baby self, young self, and older self coming into the current timeline, Tony decides to help, and after some pushing from Pepper, develops a way to allow them to safely travel through time, utilizing the Pym particles. Natasha re-recruits Clint, who has been going under the name Ronin and has been busy butchering known crime gangs all over the world for the past 5 years. Because he has nothing left to lose, he wants to be the first guinea pig for the quantum realm test. He gets taken into the quantum realm and taken back in time, where he sees his family before returning to the present and successfully doing the quantum leap test. Rocket and Hulk meanwhile go to recruit Thor, who has set up New Asgard in Norway and is a complete drunk, even becoming fat. He's currently living with Meek and Korg, while Valkyrie and the other Asgardians work in a small local fishing village. Hulk convinces him to come back and make things right, while Stark, Rocket and Hulk work on the quantum tunnel. They come up with a time heist plan, which will see them break into 3 teams and go after the 6 Infinity Stones throughout time. One team will collect the Soul Stone and the Power Stone by going to Morag and Vormir in 2014. Another will collect the Reality Stone from Asgard in 2013, and the final team will gather the Space, Mind and Time Stones from 2012 during the Battle of New York. The team split up, with Rhodey, Nebula, Clint and Nat going to Morag and Vormir, Rocket and Thor going to Asgard, and Tony, Hulk, Steve and Scott going to New York. As they go into the past, Thanos from 2014 begins to learn something has happened, with evil Nebula of this timeline beginning to have memories she hasn't had yet, thanks to the future Nebula returning to 2014 and thus sharing the same online systems as her. This begins Thanos' journey to get the stones using these memories. Thor and Rocket head to Asgard to get the Reality Stone from Jane Foster, but Thor cannot go through with it, instead actually meeting his mother, who knows he isn't from this timeline. As Rocket gets the ether from Jane, Thor learns to forgive himself for what he has done and use the chance given to him to make things better, while also retrieving Mjolnir and learning that he is worthy again. War Machine and Nebula meanwhile knock out Star-Lord as he dances his way through the Morag Temple and take the Power Stone. But then Nebula realizes what her current time father is up to, but it's too late as he arrives on the planet and kidnaps her. Nat and Clint meanwhile head to Vormir, learning from the Red Skull of the sacrifice that needs to be made to gather the Soul Stone. Both of them fight one another since they both wish to sacrifice themselves for the stone, and in the end Black Widow throws herself from the cliff, killing herself so that Clint can get the stone. In 2012, Steve's team split off to take the Scepter and Tesseract and Time Stone. The Scepter is being taken by Brock Rumlow and his strike team, but Cap feigns being part of Hydra to get the spear from him, only to be confronted by his 2012 self, who thinks he's Loki. The two fight and he distracts his past self with knowledge of Bucky being alive, allowing him to knock him out. Tony and Ant-Man try and get the Tesseract from Alexander Pierce, but the 2012 Hulk ruins their chance, allowing Loki to escape with it. Bruce meanwhile convinces the Ancient One to give him the Time Stone, promising that he will return it to this time and stop the branching of the timelines. With only enough Pym particles for a return trip, the team think that they have lost, having lost the Tesseract. But Tony knows where there will be more Pym particles as well as the Tesseract, so sending Scott and Bruce back to the present, Steve and Tony head to the 1970s, to the base where Steve trained in Project Rebirth. Nebula meanwhile is replaced by her evil self, who plans on going into the future and activating the time device to bring Thanos and his army to the present. Steve meanwhile distracts a young Hank Pym to get some Pym particles from his lab while Tony secures the Tesseract, allowing him to have a chance encounter with his father Howard. Steve also sees Peggy, making him question his life and if he should try and have a moment with her. With all the stones in hand, they head back, learning of Natasha's death from Clint. Mourning the loss of their friend, Stark still builds his new gauntlet, which Hulk uses. He manages to snap back all of the people, but the toll is too much on him, ruining his arm. At the same time, Thanos has come to the present thanks to Nebula, where he obliterates the Avengers compound. As the team look to protect the gauntlet, Iron Man, Captain America, and a Stormbreaker and Mjolnir-wielding Thor attack Thanos, who easily stomps them all out, almost killing Thor, who is luckily saved by Mjolnir, now wielded by Captain America. Clint meanwhile is confronted by the evil Nebula, but before she can kill him, the present Nebula and past Gamora, now realizing her father is wrong, arrive and kill her. Thanos rips Cap's shield apart, shattering it after knocking out Thor and Iron Man. Steve is the last man standing against Thanos and his army, but suddenly hears Falcon's voice as Doctor Strange opens up hundreds of portals, letting not just the returned heroes back to Earth, but also Pepper Potts in her rescue armor, the army of Wakanda, the Sorcerer Supremes, and the Asgardians to rally with Captain America against Thanos and his army. The two armies clash as they continue to try and keep Thanos from the gauntlet. The team need to get the stones back to their respective timelines, and in order to do so, they need need the quantum tunnel inside Scott's van, which has been broken by the compound being leveled. Thanos orders his ships to fire on the battlefield, which begins killing the Wakandans, Asgardians, and sorcerers, and even his own men. But Captain Marvel arrives, destroying the ship before helping get the gauntlet to the van. Thanos, however, gets the gauntlet, and going off what Doctor Strange hints at, Iron Man attacks, stealing all of the stones before he can snap his fingers. Putting the stones in his own suit, the power overwhelms Tony, but he manages to snap his fingers, which disintegrates Thanos' army before the Mad Titan himself is dusted. Overcome by the power, Tony begins to die, having a moment with Peter, Rhodey, and Pepper before he dies surrounded by his family. In the aftermath, Clint is reunited with his family, as is Scott, as every hero attends Tony Stark's funeral, where Pepper Potts puts a wreath made out of Tony's first arc reactor on his lake. As everyone begins rebuilding their lives and Thor gives rule of Asgard to Valkyrie so he can join the Guardians of the Galaxy, Steve plans on taking the stones back to their times, so with the help of Hulk, he goes back, but he doesn't return instantly as Hulk theorizes. Instead, Bucky and Sam, who are present, see an old man, who as Sam learns turns out to be Steve, who decided to stay in the past. He thanks Sam for everything and with his blessing and Bucky's, gives him the shield, wanting him to become the next Captain America. The movie ends with Steve in the 1950s, having married Peggy and finally getting the dance he promised her. So now that I've done a breakdown of what essentially is the 3-hour film, I just thought I'd give you my thoughts about the film, and these are my unfiltered first impressions of the film, and I've got to say, it's a damn good film. I absolutely enjoyed it. I enjoyed how everything in it had a payoff, how everything connected up with one another. I liked that it was also respectful of the past, with obviously time travel being a big part of this film. I liked that when we went back to the past, we got to see things from different angles. That was really fun, especially the Battle of New York stuff, where we got to see the stuff in Avengers Tower from behind everyone, as well as Alexander Pierce's role in it, and Brock Rumlow's role in it, and his strike team. I thought that was really cool. The stuff with the Ancient One with Bruce is really cool. That's not something I actually really expected to be in the film. Like, I thought that was really cool how she pulled his Astro body out of it, and his Astro body is just normal Bruce Banner. I thought that was pretty cool, and a nice sort of reversal on Banner turning into Hulk, or Hulk turning into Banner. The stuff with Thor as well was really great. I absolutely loved his character stuff, especially his sort of introduction in the 5 years later part of the film, where he's fat, he's drunk, he's yelling at kids on Fortnite with Korg and Meek. It's just absolutely funny and hilarious, and also sad as well, because, you know, he's like that because he views this as his fault. I thought that was actually really great, and his moment with his mother is actually really great, with him learning that he shouldn't blame himself for it, in like, yeah, he kind of messed up and everything, but now he has a chance to set things right, and he should do that because that's who he is and that's who he can be. I thought that was really cool. Steve stuff, I can see this being kind of like The Last Jedi in terms of how it's going to affect people. I think I can already see people online getting very, very upset about it just from reading like leaked plot leaks and stuff before the film came out. So I'm interested to see what general movie audiences think of it, but I actually thought it was pretty perfect. Absolutely loved what they did with his character there at the end. Steve isn't gone as Captain America, can still easily come back, as well as we have this older Steve now, and people who've read the comics know that for a while there, Steve actually didn't have the super soldier serum and was actually an old man running a shield unit, so could definitely happen again. Sam becoming Captain America is very interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing if that actually plays into the Disney Plus show, whether that's what it's about, whether him grappling with the idea of becoming Captain America, or whether he realizes someone maybe like Bucky should actually be it. But I did like that they kind of referenced that in this film, where Bucky knew something was going to happen with this, so he let Sam have it, and I'm interested to see what they're going to do with that. Wanda as well was very interesting, because throughout this whole film, Vision doesn't come back. They made a clear point that say that the present Gamora is dead, Natasha, Black Widow, is actually dead, and Vision is actually dead. So her show is going to to be very interesting, and whether it's like maybe a thing where she's gone insane and maybe created Vision out of her own mind or something. Very intrigued to see what they're going to do with that. Natasha's death as well is probably going to not sit well with a lot of people. I did like how she sacrificed herself for the Soul Stone. I thought that was a really touching moment, and I'm intrigued to see like what that means for her solo films. There are solo films, obviously a prequel or something. There's lots of really cool stuff that can spin out of this film or because of the events in this film. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what they will do with this when they move forward past Far From Home and move into the Eternals and Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and all of that sort of stuff. Avengers Endgame is another total win for Marvel Studios, and one hell of a way to cap off this absolutely huge 22 movie story arc that began 11 years ago in a mansion in Malibu. I'm very much looking forward to what Marvel Studios has in store for Phase 4 and beyond. I'm going to give Avengers Endgame a 10 out of 10. Hey everyone, thanks for watching my newest video. If you enjoyed it, you might also like to check out my other reviews here on my channel. You can also follow me on various social media platforms like Twitter by searching Matt_FOS, or even join the Comic Multiverse Discord server and chat with other comic book fans, including myself and Joel from Cape Joel. Want cheap comics and trades? Head over to the book depository with the link in the description to get the cheapest trades and comics around, along with free shipping anywhere in the world. Until next time, this has been Matt of the Fortress of Solitude. Thank you so much for watching.